A common topic or theme that comes up, whether you're talking with clients and executive coaching situations and senior people or people at mid-level, anybody who's had either some kind of success or are aspiring to do better and create better, is this notion of that they feel like they're an imposter. They actually call it imposter syndrome. The sense that at any moment you're going to be found out, that your successes and whatever it is you're doing came about by accident, and that you had nothing to do with it, that you're not actually who you are, who you seem to be, or what you do, but you're some kind of a charlatan, some kind of a caricature of a role. I hear this from senior managers. I hear this from chief executives. The sense that luck was what created their career rather than skill and ability. Now, I'm not denying that luck plays a major role in all kinds of aspects of success. But in terms of your ability and your right to be there, it's got nothing to do with it. This imposter syndrome and the setup for it actually starts when you're very, very young. We're given these games and rules and structures and images of what somebody who is in a particular role looks like and how they act and how they should be. And we're told how they should feel. And it comes through advertising, and it comes through the storytelling from Hollywood on television and in the movies. And it comes from education, where we're told about this aspect or that aspect of life. It's passed on through our parents, who have these imaginary images. They're not real, but they're created as kind of cultural fantasies of what power, of what wealth, of what the good life is and should be. And so when you base your goals, your dreams, your hopes on these fantasy images, and then you chase them through the approved channels, the correct expectation is I should be seeing and feeling some of what those promises are. I should be feeling great. I should be on top of the world. I should be happy with my lot. I should feel good about what it is that I do. But the further on you go, the less you feel it. Here's why. You're comparing yourself to a fantasy. It's a kind of a collective malpractice that we've taken on. If you try and match the real you, a real human being, against a fantasy superhuman image, and compare in terms of positives and negatives and faults and flaws and virtues, you are going to come up short. If you base your self-image on how far short you fall from idealized images or lying images, you're going to end up not just questioning yourself, but questioning yourself to destruction. Part of this imposter syndrome is wanting to do the right thing, feeling you've done the right thing, but not enjoying the expected benefit. As I've said before, when we're coaching with people like this, we have to get it back to what the world actually is. There is no contentment. There's no peace. There is no satisfaction. There's nothing intrinsically in the promotion, the money, the house, whatever it is that's being held up there as either necessary acquisition or as some kind of a role that you have to achieve. There's nothing in them in terms of that peace or contentment or satisfaction. The only peace, contentment, satisfaction, or enjoyment is what you bring to it. The fact that you're working 60 hours a week, that you've destroyed your relationship with your family, that you have lots of money and have various things, but you can't communicate with your spouse anymore. Yeah, those are just the costs. I'm doing this all for you guys. This is why you have a good life. No. You've been telling yourself that in the hopes that when this imaginary situation lands someday, that then you'll be happy. Then they'll be satisfied. Then they'll understand. And it's garbage in, garbage out. Those fantasies do not resolve. They're like setting up a problem and insisting that the cause comes from one place when it actually comes from somewhere else. As long as you're trying to base your hopes and your dreams on someone else's input, fantasy, scheme, or whatever, you will most likely come up short because it's not connected to you. You're trying to force fit yourself into a template that just isn't you. The things that bring you the greatest joy in life, the things that bring you the greatest contentment, greatest satisfaction, greatest peace, will come from who you are and how you move through the world when you are choosing. But not as a fait accompli, and not connected just because you have a job. We have to kind of separate out from these images, false images, collective, corporate images that, by the way, they only act to control. They're ways to ensure compliance and control, keep you in line, keep you from getting out of line. Yeah, stay in line, climb the pole, you get to the position. But in starting to recover from that imposter syndrome, first things first is to recognize that you bought into a certain amount of garbage and connect up with what that garbage is. Who did you get it from? Remember, lost performative? Where did that come from? When did that start? When did you buy into it? Yeah? What is the source? Who performed that judgment? How did you buy into it? And then you have to ask those very direct questions, just as we do in NLP, using the meta model, using the framing tool, using the strategy tools and the coaching processes and kind of thing that I'm going to show you in this program. So what would you like to have instead? If you could have what you wanted, what would you want to have instead? What would life be like? What would you be doing other than what you're doing now? If somebody were able to whisper in your ear and say, hey, that fantasy that you have, that dream that you have about doing a particular kind of job or doing your work in a particular way, it is possible. What is it? You got to get it so that you stop living in fantasy world and you start living in creative building world, which is here. The satisfaction, the enjoyment, the peace and contentment comes from creating your life as you want it and making the world conform to it. If you spent your life so far trying to conform to these fantasy images and these standards that are actually impossible to achieve, then that happiness and contentment and the rest are going to be quite far away. The notion that you're an imposter, and by the way, I'm not talking about people who are psychologically deranged. I'm not talking about psychopaths and sociopaths, narcissists, and all the rest of that. I'm talking about ordinary people. Is you don't have the right or the ability to judge yourself that harshly. You can't even assess these standards and fantasy dreams and goals for their validity and for their workability. You're in no place to judge. So we've got to come down off of this social control thing that we've interiorized, this constant putting yourself down and comparing yourself to what isn't so and never will be so, and start looking at what you're doing right now and how you're doing it. Starting to become, if not a friend to yourself, then at least a better coach. If you're treating yourself poorly on the inside, being vicious, nasty, or insulting yourself, you haven't yet applied whatever tools you have as a people helper to yourself internally. In other words, you're not getting value from whatever tools you acquired because you refuse to do it. You want to start changing the quality of your life, change the internal quality that you treat yourself. You don't allow behavior internally that you wouldn't allow externally. We're going to be doing a section in the program on things like imposter syndrome, on things like, the fear of being found out, of being uncertain of what to do, of what it means when you're a leader. The notion that leaders come fully born and with all of the skills, capabilities, attitudes, and knowledge that they need is bogus. How do you learn when you're in a position of responsibility? How do you bring the best expression of who you are and who you've been into those new situations? When we talk about personal development and growth, it's not some magic techniques that you do and suddenly you feel good. It's that in how you manage yourself and how you manage your life, you bring a kind of consistency and you bring a principled focus to what you're doing. And instead of getting results and rewards somewhere off in time, you start accruing them every single day. And it's from that learning how to enjoy and make best use out of what you got, that the tools evolve for when you get into more and more responsible positions, bigger positions. I mean, we're going to have a whole section on dealing with stuff like imposter syndrome in the program.